Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to another episode of On the Couch with Creatives. I say good morning because I'm here in the UK, but good afternoon or good evening if you're anywhere else in the world. I'm Melanie Perry.
And I'm Julie Hyde-Mew.
And this is On the Couch with Creatives. Fans and followers of the show will know by now that we're part of the Creatives Group, the private network for creative professionals everywhere. Together, we help you create at your best, connect you with like-minded individuals, and therefore help you to grow your creative business. If that sounds like a good idea to you and you'd like to talk to us after the show, please do so and we'd love to have a chat to you. But this is On the Couch with Creatives. So Julie, who have we got on the couch today?
So today we are talking to Mark WALMSLEY. He is the founder and director of the Arts and Culture Network. Mark has played the Triangle at Carnegie Hall, performed a dangerous stunt on live TV as Batman, and has been master of ceremonies for the British royal family. And we're going to be asking him about those incidents coming up. Mark has been a successful brand and marketing consultant for over 20 years and is a fellow of both the Royal Society of Arts and the Chartered Institute of Marketing. So let's get him on the couch. Hello, Mark. Welcome to On the Couch. Lovely to see you.
I'm so excited about this. I can't tell you, I've been excited all morning. It's lovely to be here. Thank you.
I'm delighted. I'm excited as well, Mark.
Well, tell us a little bit more about yourself, your professional career, and then we'll get into all the interesting stuff. Well, not that your career is not interesting, but all the funny stories that we want to hear from you.
Sure. I trained as a musician in London at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, and then worked as a freelance percussionist in the orchestral world. Spent 12 years in the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra, played the Triangle at Carnegie Hall and decided I'd peaked. And I read Cain and Abel by Jeffrey Archer while I was at college and decided I needed to set up a business, and that became a music agency, which became an event company. Dabbled with digital in the early 90s, started a web design company that got to 16, sold it just before the recession in 2008, took a couple of years off to spend with my young children, and then spent some time in agency land in brand and marketing and digital. And then I'm a kind of like a freelance marketing consultant when I'm not running the Arts and Culture Network, which is the fastest running horse at the moment and why I've become professionally nocturnal. I live in Essex, in Hullbridge, which is a little village in Essex, about 40 miles east of London. I've rebranded it because that's what I do. So I now call it Hullbridge on Crouch because that's the name of the river that we're on. And yeah, love it here. It's our forever home, tiny, but fantastic. So love it.
And what made you decide to start an arts and or a networking group? What made you decide on that?
I'm a routine early adopter. So I started using LinkedIn in late 2003. I got a message from them saying, thank you for being one of the first 100,000 users of LinkedIn, which is just nuts when you think it's nearly approaching 1 billion users now. And in 2009, I think they made it possible to start groups on LinkedIn. So I thought, well, I want to get back into the arts and culture world, and I'm a furious networker and connector. So I started a LinkedIn group, the Arts and Culture Network, promptly forgot all about it. I wish I'd done the same with Bitcoin, but there you go. And it grew on its own. And then as we were approaching lockdown, I looked at it and there were 18,000 members, none of whom had met. So I said, right, we're all used to Zoom now, let's get together. And that was about 3 years ago. And we now have 120,000 members across 8 arts and culture LinkedIn groups, and a growing number of full members who wanted to join the inner circle, as Melanie has. So, and that comes with additional opportunities for profile, network, career, and business development in our sector. We're decidedly independent, inclusive, diverse. There are no borders in our world, and ours is the only sector that can save the world. So that's what we're doing.
I like that. That's why I was drawn to it, Mark. You know, save the world, make the world a better place. absolutely. And make the world a better place through the arts, because there is no better way to do it, in my view.
Well, we're one of those rare sectors that doesn't depend on language as much as everybody else does. And so, and music is a very good example. Music is an odd thing. I couldn't live without music. And oddly, it has no tangible human survival benefit, yet it is ubiquitous the world over. And that's something a little bit magical. And the same can be said of art, dance, theatre. It's what we were meant to do, us lot, you know. It's what we're best at, being original, being creative. And sadly, it's been neglected in our children, but at the moment it seems to be in many places. But the aim for the Arts and Culture Network is to become a global support foundation, where we give over half the membership revenue away every month. And that by the end of the decade, that should be between £10,000 and £20,000 every month. And somebody said, well, what sort of thing would you want to support? And I said, it's up to the members. I've coined the phrase democratic collective philanthropy. That's what we're doing. All of those little £10 a month mount up. So it could be a new guitar for your unemployed neighbour's daughter. It could be supporting the first festival of women's Inuit art outside Canada, or it could be, and this was a real need which we actually helped with, finding accommodation for the orphaned homeless dancers in a dance crew in Kampala in Uganda. But the thread that runs through the whole of our community is this undeniable passion for the arts and culture as a really important part of everyday life.
Yeah, I scored a bit of a coup, Mark. You'll love this, because I got an email from my son's school a little while ago saying, oh, to the parents, any volunteers? You know, are you a scientist? Are you a pharmacist? Would you like to come in and do a thing for National Science Week in March? So, of course, I wrote back and said, I'm none of those things, but I think it's really important to put in here how the arts affect the sciences, and you can't really have one without the other. So I'd like to get the children talking and thinking about how arts affect the sciences and those careers, and how important it is, and get them thinking about science in a whole new way. Not sure if we'll go for that, but that's what I'm going to put on the table. Anyway,
well, they should.
They said, yes, please. So I was like, yes.
That's great. I mean, it's no longer STEM, it's STEAM, with the arts in there. And I said to my son, being a good stockbroker won't make you a good pianist, but the reverse is probably true, you know. And it's about access for those people. There's a lovely saying somebody told me the other day: the greatest violinist who ever lived never got the chance to pick up a violin. And it's true. It's missed opportunity. And you could even extend it to inclusion and just common sense. If the UK hadn't welcomed Freddie Mercury's family when they were refugees, we wouldn't have Bohemian Rhapsody now. So, yeah. Do the right thing, basically. Do the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And as we touched on earlier, you know, the arts, it is so inclusive. It is so inclusive, and it just brings people together. And I love the fact that there are no boundaries, you know, for art and creating beautiful works of art or music or dance. It's just enjoyed by everybody. And there's nothing so wonderful as seeing a great piece of dance or hearing a great piece of music. And it endures. The arts endure, and people trying to kill it off by, you know, cutting budgets in schools and stuff like that. I'm thinking you're actually doing the world a great disservice, because if the arts disappear, then we're all in trouble.
Yeah, I think it was Churchill who was criticised for maintaining the arts and culture budget during the Second World War, and his response was, "So why are we fighting?" You know, yeah, it's really important. And we know study after study shows that if a young person engages in a form of creativity, everything else they do benefits from that. So, yeah, that's the mission.
I want to hear a little bit more before we go on to other things about your career as do you call yourself a triangulist?
Yeah, triangle player generally, but what most people don't realize is that in an orchestra, the triangle player gets paid more than the violinists.
Wow.
I didn't know
Because
that.
yeah, thanks to the musicians union, they decided back in the day that if there was only one of those instruments in the orchestra, then it was automatically a principal part. And there is only one triangle. So yeah, I got to play at Carnegie Hall. There's a funny story there if you've got time, do you?
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
We want to hear the funny stories.
So the triangle story was I was on tour with the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra, and we were playing Stravinsky's Firebird Suite, which during the ending, the triangle gets louder and louder and louder and louder and louder. And in the middle of the piece, there is a really, really quiet entry by the French horn, and the strings are all gossamer-like underneath. And the conductor, Simon Rattle, said to the violinist, "If you can hear yourself playing, you're playing too loud." And the horn comes in really high and really quiet. It's a beautiful entry, and it's very difficult to do through 22 feet of brass tubing. It's beautiful. And our French horn player, the first horn in the orchestra, was new, and he'd been terrified of doing this. It was a live TV broadcast, practicing it for weeks and weeks, and he absolutely nailed it. But then at breakfast the next morning, he stormed into the breakfast room and slapped the New York Times down in front of me. And he said, "I've been practicing that for 3 months. And you get the review?" And because it said last night in Carnegie Hall, the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra was red hot until the triangle player came in and turned it white hot. And which was a lovely review to get. But I felt really badly because he did a fantastic job. But yeah, that's the triangle story.
Mm. And tell us your Batman story. I want to hear that one too.
Well, I hope you've
Yes.
got a while. You'll have to wave at me to stop because in 1995, I ran an entertainment company, and I was asked by Warner Brothers to arrange the launch of Batman Forever, the computer game. And so we took over Warner Brothers store in Regent Street on the hottest day of the year, invited 300 journalists, and I said, "Well, why don't we have Batman make an entry and fall through the ceiling?" And they said, "Sounds great." So we got the suit from the film, Val Kilmer's suit with all the detachable bits. We hired a stunt man, and at Warner Brothers they had this 2-story stairwell. So we created effectively the Batcave in the stairwell, and in the middle of which was a sugar glass ceiling with the Bat logo going round on it. Above that, suspended on a rope, was the stunt man. He's going to be lowered down, break through the glass, stand on the stage, in which there was a grill and a fan so that he could open out his arms with the canes, and suddenly Batman's there. And it had to happen at exactly the right moment in front of these 300 journalists who were all looking the other way. Monday night was great. The rehearsal, fantastic. We did the kit out from 4 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon. Stuntman didn't turn up. And I had expected it to be a rather clever drag mechanism, but it wasn't. It was an old guy with gardening gloves, a piece of scaffolding pole, and a climbing rope, and that was it. So unfortunately, I was in charge of the whole event, but I was the only person who really didn't have anything to do, and I was also the only person who could fit in the suit. So guess what? So I'm just swinging in this wonderful Batman suit, looking down, trying to aim, and I wasn't anywhere near, so I was having to swing. I said, "I'll give you 3, 2, 1, lower me down, I'll break the glass, lower me nicely down onto the stage, and I'll do this." He must have just done this, because I fell at the right moment. I fell, took out the ceiling, everything, landed on splinters on the grill, thought I better stand up, stood up, looking, really quite Batman-like, and the fan started up, and we didn't realize that the splinters were all coming up and sort of sticking into my face. So that was a bit embarrassing. I then had to do a walkabout. The only time I've ever felt like David Beckham must do. Everybody wants a photo with you. And then, so I thought, right, I'm keeping the suit. I survived, I was fine, but I thought, fancy dress sorted for life now. I've got Val Kilmer's suit from the film, which if I'd kept would probably be worth a 20 or 30,000 pounds now. Friday came along, and the production company, Warner Brothers, rang up and said, "Mark, where's the suit?" I said, "Don't know." you know, they said, you can either get it to us to, you know, you either courier it to us, or you've got to go to Aberdeen tomorrow and open Toys R Us. And I thought, I said £1,000, and they said done. And so I flew up. I turned up at the airport with they said, you're flying up with Mighty Mouse, Barbie, and some Power Rangers. So like an idiot, I was wandering around Gatwick Airport looking for these characters. And I had the suit in my bag. I spotted somebody who looked as though she could be Barbie, and I was right. So we flew up, and the next morning we had to be at 6 a.m. at this new Toys R Us in Aberdeen, and I was told, just run up and down a bit. And that you're neither Scottish nor American, so don't speak, please. You know, the manager was really unpleasant. So I thought, I'll linger by the merchandise, the Batman merchandise. And this family came along, and I was sort of doing the living statue thing. And there was the dad came over and said, hey, look, there's Batman. And the little kid said, that's not Batman, and decided to test his theory by thumping me in the utility belt. So I doubled over like this, and then the young mum came over and said, I'm so sorry about that. And she touched my arm, and she looked at me and said, is that rubber? I thought, oh my God, I'm in trouble here. And there was a lovely little kid who couldn't afford a £1 figurine of me, and I won the dancing competition in the car park with Radio Scotland, and gave him a bike worth about 50 quid, a Batman bike. So it all went, and I got to salsa with Barbie. So it was worth the trip.
Wow.
That's the
And what happened to the suit? Did you have to give it back?
Yeah, I did. Unfortunately, it was worth thousands. So I wish I'd kept it, or said, I'm sorry, I've lost it. So
But that would have made you a thief, Mark.
that would have done, yes. But I would either that, or I'd have said, you can give me the stuntman's fee.
Well, you were lucky that you really didn't do yourself an injury.
I know.
Cool.
Yeah, but the show must go on. The show must go on.
And then let's talk about this connection with the royal family. That's also an interesting story that I believe you can tell.
Yes, I was organising a charity event at the Guildhall in the City of London, and the Toastmaster community is quite closed. You have to be a member of a certain number of clubs. So I was just organising the event, and they booked a Toastmaster, and he fell ill just shortly before the dinner, and we had the Duke of Edinburgh there, and he'd arrived in his black taxi. He used to travel around London in a black cab so that he wouldn't get recognized, and so I had to do all of the, I had to rather quickly learn the hierarchy of, you know, my lords, ladies, and, you know, the Your Royal Highness. We had a chief from Nigeria there, so he had to be next. So Your Royal Highness, chief, alderman, my lords, ladies and gentlemen. I had to get it all right. So I had to do all the link stuff, dressed in a rather oversized red Toastmasters jacket. But again, you just got to step in and do it. But that was great fun. At those times, I used to do quite a bit of hosting of those events, and I did a film quiz with Barry Norman. We did Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with Chris Tarrant on stage, which was fun. And this was mainly for the Born Free Foundation that I did those. So yeah, it's a checkered history.
But you just seem to fall in with these strange stories that you're telling. It's not planned, is it?
No, not at all. Perhaps I attract disasters like that. I mean, we probably don't have long enough, but the stories from being a percussionist in the pit in West End shows and in operas, there are some hilarious stories there. Have you got time for one?
Yes, tell us one. Tell us one.
There is a wonderful percussionist called Gary Cattell, who I've known for years. He's in Hans Zimmer's orchestra now, but he used to misbehave. And now this tale, if he's watching, I'm sure has grown in the telling. But he was playing in the premiere of an opera at the Royal Opera House. And on the stage, just before the interval, there is a fight on the stage, and one of the actors takes out a pistol and shoots the other. And so the job of the pistol is normally the percussionist. So you've got a starting pistol in a steel bucket, basically, in the pit. And it has to be an open cue, so the conductor would say, when you're ready. So he's got a mirror angled so that he can see the action on the stage and shoot it at the right moment. He had a blazing row with the conductor, apparently. And when the open cue was given and this event was about to happen on stage, he just started shaking his head. I'm not doing it. Not doing it. And this is the press premiere. I'm not doing it. The conductor started wading through the second violins to get to the pistol to do it. And he said, I'm not doing it, not doing it. And on stage, the actor brandished the pistol and nothing happened. So he rather cleverly threw it aside as if it was malfunctioning, pulled out a dagger and plunged it into the tummy of his adversary. Just at that moment, Gary went, bang! There are some lovely stories. There's a book in that. There really is. So,
oh, you should write it.
I should. Yeah,
like
I should.
Your memoirs.
Yes.
There are always stories after every performance in the theatre. Something always goes wrong. There's very rarely a night where something doesn't go wrong.
I think while I remember it, sorry to interrupt.
No.
But there was one event in Ireland which I think was hilarious. There was a big opera production, and what should happen, offstage musicians, what should happen is there's a huge rumble of, there's lightning on stage, a huge rumble of thunder, which is the big bass drum off stage, followed by the manic swinging church bell, ding, 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 and then organ, bang, right? Really nasty big chord in the middle of a storm. Again, rehearsal's fine. Musicians went off, had a few too many drinks, came back for the performance, and what they should have got is that's what they should have got. What they actually got was, because he went straight through the skin of the bass drum, he hit the other guy hit the tubular bell so hard that it broke its string and went ding, 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 ding. And he went, and the organist went, and instead of getting that lovely deep organ bit, they got somebody been fiddling around with the organ between the rehearsal and the concert, and
oh my God.
So
can you imagine? Oh my Lord. I've never thought that an orchestra would come back to a performance half cut.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You have to write the book.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to wait for it. Confessions of a Concert Percussionist.
Yeah, or Travels with My Triangle might be nice.
Travels with My Triangle.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
I'm crying now. Stop it.
When I left the orchestra, they you know those lovely, clever flight cases that they put violins and cellos and things in? They created one for the triangle. It was literally a triangle box on a hinge. You put the triangle in and close it. That was a nice going away present. But that was in the City of Birmingham Symphony. I miss it. I do. It's great fun. I mean, the touring's good fun, and with that. There was one. Stop me. But
we're enjoying ourselves immensely. You carry on.
There's one occasion where the first oboe in the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra in the 19th and 2000s was a beautifully dressed, dapper gentleman, a lovely guy, and he was very conscious of the way he would look. And of course, on tour, you're in a different hotel pretty much every night. So they say, right, pack your suitcase, leave it outside your bedroom door when you go to bed, because and the next time you'll see it will be in the next hotel bedroom. So they travel that overnight. Unfortunately, he packed everything. Right, and came down to breakfast in his robe and said, everything I've got is now on its way to the next hotel. And a rather athletic trombone player had just been out for a jog, and so this poor chap had to do a flight in somebody's sweaty jogging pants. It wasn't his, but yeah, Richard it was. Lovely guy.
Oh, dear me.
Million and I are both mopping up tears of laughter here.
I try not to look like doing Alice Cooper. Oh God.
Oh, you definitely have to write that book. And what Travels with My Triangle sounds absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Absolutely
that would be wonderful. There's a good friend called Michael Doran who I think is he does a stand-up show around similar stories. he does it, I'm sure, far better than I do. But the other, in the entertainment agency, I developed a reputation for putting on spoof entertainment, which was kind of from the same sick humor. I set up a team of comedy waiters who become a band and wreck formal functions. And have you got time for this one?
Yeah. Oh, loads. Yeah.
So there's a wine waiter who does actually get progressively drunk. He's found swigging, this is formal functions. Imagine Tesco's Christmas party, Alexandra Palace. There's a waiter who's got all the normal livery on, swigging out of a wine bottle and putting it back on the table, that kind of thing. The maintenance man you would wish him dead. He's got to change that light bulb at 9 p.m. So everyone has to pick their food up, move the table, and ladders go up. The waitress, Becky, the flame-haired temptress, we called her, used to wear an extremely thin white blouse over a very black bra and with a few too many buttons undone. And she would flirt outrageously with any men who were there, clearly with their wives or girlfriends. And then there was the waiter who used to serve food with a blood-stained bandage on his hand. And if asked, he would say, "I got savaged by a badger." And they still do it. It's wonderful, a wonderful show. But there was a guy at the Tesco's party, senior executive, I think, at Tesco's, and said, "I loved what you did. I think it was so funny, the rate at which the penny drops with different people." The waiter, for example, does caricatures, as he moonlights doing caricatures, but he can only do the back of people's heads. So it's all properly spoof. And he said, I'd like to book you to do my son's bar mitzvah. And I said, "Oh, I don't think that's a good idea. I really don't think we should wreck a family occasion like that." He said, no, you don't understand. We've got 10 bar mitzvahs this summer. I want my son's one to be the one that people talk about for years. And this could help. And I said, "Okay, I'll put it to the guys." So I put it to the guys and they said, no, we're not doing it. He said, "I'll pay you double the fee if you do it." And they said, "Okay, we'll do it for the normal fee, but we want a waiver because there were alternative comedians basically. So I thought I'd better
Not
go
responsible for any divorce.
I went along. I thought I'd better go along. 400 people at the King David Suite at Marble Arch. It's like Wembley Stadium for bar mitzvahs. And the client had warned great Uncle George, who was in his 90s, that top table, that some strange things might happen, but you won't get it, you won't understand it, so just ignore it. And George was a bit put out by that, as you can imagine. Anyway, so we were starting the show during dinner, and I went backstage, and Becky, the flame-haired temptress, who wears a plaster cast so you can't see the canapes you're about to eat, she was making ham sandwiches at a bar mitzvah. And I thought, "You're not serious. I said, "Don't go anywhere near great Uncle George on the top table." She said, "Okay." So I stood on the mezzanine and looked down, and she came on, tottering on her high heels with too many buttons undone, with a plaster cast and some ham sandwiches on there, making a beeline for great Uncle George. And I thought, oh no. She lowered her hand down. He took one look at them, clutched at his chest, and fell on the floor. And I thought, oh, I don't think the waiver's going to cover this. And Neil, the drunken wine waiter, sobered up really quickly, got straight to him, went down to sort of check for breathing, and great Uncle George whispered in his ear, "Tell him I'm dead and drag me out by my heels." And
fantastic.
So Neil got a napkin, put it over his face, and stood up and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry that great Uncle George has chosen this event to leave us, but I'm sure he'd want you to carry on talking and enjoying yourselves, and please do that while I dispose of the corpse." And he picked him up by his heels, and those doors that do that in the kitchen. He marched him out through that and got him stuck halfway, and he's pulling and pushing and pulling and pushing, and the place was silent, like this. What just happened? And then it was uproar. They both dusted themselves off in the kitchen, grabbed a bottle of champagne each, and walked back in arm in arm. And great Uncle George went straight up to the microphone with the DJ and said, "That's for my nephew who didn't think I could take a joke."
Fantastic.
It was just
what a story.
He sent us the second half of the fee, which was good, and which was nice of him, and they're still talking about it.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Are they still talking about that one particular bar mitzvah?
Absolutely, yeah. But the other lovely thing we did was I set up the Media Circus, which is a team of comedy paparazzi, and we would go and treat arriving guests as if they were celebrities at really dull parties. But one of the things we did, there were actually celebrities there. It was for the Born Free Foundation at Pinewood Studios, and so the guys were coming up with these lines. You know, they've got the old flash bulbs and the things. It was before digital, no film in any of the cameras.
Right.
So they make comments like, "Oh, madam, that's the third dress like that we've seen tonight. Can we have a picture?" You know, or can I have you up against the wall, please, madam? You know. But Paul Young turned up along with lots of other celebrities with his girlfriend, I think, at the time. And so the camera, you know, and then all the sort of company people were coming, you know, the non-celebrities. And so the chaps were going, Paul, you know, and he'd pose, you know, he said, "No, Paul, could you get out of the way, please?" We're trying to take a picture of Karen from accounts.
Oh, how fantastic. Oh, God.
Mark, that people do still have a sense of humour these days, because I'm going to be very politically incorrect here, but with all the kind of woke stuff that's going on, you know, the younger generation do have a bit of a hard time laughing at themselves. Do you think there's still a market for this kind of stuff? Because I think it's hilarious, but I can imagine, you know, some of these youngsters going, "Oh my gosh, you can't do that."
I think it has changed, certainly, but it's the suspense and the rate at which different people get the joke, you know. So, for example, the wine waiter, if somebody asks for a bit more wine, everyone else on the table gets some except for the person who asked for it. And when they complain, it's up to the brim, so they can't pick it up. And the penny drops at certain points. The maintenance man is lovely. He goes up to the stage just at the point at the end of a dinner where if there's going to be a speech, it's then. Okay. He goes up to the stage and with his mallet goes bang, bang, bang. Now that's universal language for shut up, someone's going to say something. And it's all the other waiters start clapping, you know, around the room. So you've got 400 people clapping, a maintenance man banging a hammer into a stage. And it's the rate at which people, you know, get the gag or not. That it's when the penny drops. When people get angry, that's hilarious. I mean,
I'm still reading about Great Uncle George. I think it's hilarious.
I know. The other one we did. The other one was we were called by the Observer appropriately. They were doing a conference for their journalists on observation, you know, as you would. And they said, we're at a golf club. We need you to do some set pieces to see if people notice what's going on. So at breakfast, they were all meeting for breakfast, and they were told this is about observation. And so we had the breakfast bar was on right close to the 18th hole of this golf course. Summer, doors open, lovely. And we had a chap. We had one of our actors walk in full-on golfing gear, holding a putter, walking around the breakfast tables like this, you know, clearly looking for his ball. It must have come into the restaurant. Things like that. We had people, breakout rooms. You know, when they had a workshop session, and we rushed in and we put a video on, and it was kind of like softcore porn and a couple of beer cans and a full ashtray. And they came back into the meeting and thought, "What on earth, you know, is that?" And it was hilarious. Even qualified journalists don't get it sometimes. They had one session which was about political correctness, and outside on the grass, outside the open window, were two gardeners talking about what they had done with one of the waitresses the night before, really quite loudly, and it was heard in the room, and it was just, I love it. We also designed a spoof golf course. We've never had the chance to build it, but I wanted to buy a rundown municipal golf course and make it worse. It's like full-size Crazy Golf, you know, with a real windmill halfway down the fairway, and we had a gypsy family camping on the green. You know, you had to putt round them, and just silly daft things like that. There was one hole which was a par 10, because the hole is at the top of a hill, and you kept putting over it like that. And the next one was a concave, so you could, if you hit the green, you're in the hole. But yeah, just silly thing. I got in touch with Disney's golf course design chap, and he said, I love this. This will make you a lot of money if you get this set up, because stag days, Japanese tourists, all over it. He said, but I can't put my name to it because I would lose my job.
Yeah. You know, Mark,
I'd love to book a political, anti-political correctness one, because I just absolutely my bag. It just sounds absolutely hilarious. But what we're going to ask you now is, because otherwise we're going to seriously run out of time. What are your top? I'm streaming.
we normally ask people for their top tips at this stage of the interview, but what top tips do we direct these at? So
What would you tell your 16-year-old self?
This is, yeah, my 16-year-old self. I've written 3 things down. The first one is, when you brush your teeth, spend twice as much time on your lower jaw and twice as much of that behind your lower jaw. That's just one tip for my son. And what was the next one? Pension. Sorry, I wish I did start a very small pension when I was 18, and I'm glad I did, because that compounding, and this is not very funny now, is it? But these are sensible things.
That's very serious now.
Yeah.
suddenly got very depressing.
Yeah. But the last one I think is focus and action. One of the things a couple of years ago, I found myself being pulled from pillar to post, and there's a lovely line in the song "Sitting on the Dock of the Bay," Otis Redding, I can't do what 10 people tell me to do, when he gets a bit heated in the middle 8. And I wish I had stuck to that. I've refocused on my efforts on the Arts and Culture Network now, and it's paying off big time. I know, our grandparents all had a job for life in the same company. Our parents probably all worked for decades for the same company. We're currently averaging 4 years in the same company as an employee. So it doesn't take a genius to work out we're all going to be portfolio freelancers, but you need to have some focus, and that's the advice I give when I do the brand discovery workshops. Find the wait what moment when you introduce yourself to somebody. When our kids say wait what, it's because they kind of get it but need to know more. So I do some work around that as well, but make that, be different, be better and remarkable, and you'll be noticed, remembered and talked about, is effectively the advice there. That would be it. Yes, that's rather sensible, isn't it? Be different, be better, be remarkable, so you're noticed, talked about, noticed, remembered and talked about. Yeah.
And clean your teeth and get attention.
And get a pension.
I feel like wanting to clap there. I mean, really. The end of what a wonderful performance, Mark. I wish it could go on all day, quite frankly. This has been hilarious.
We'll have to do episode 2 because there's so much more.
Okay, so. Yeah.
We're not done yet, Julie. We're not done yet. We're gonna pick his brains even more. This is probably even worse.
I love this.
So I was trying to get myself under control, Mark. Bad influence. Right. Right, okay.
Pick a card, any card.
Yeah, pick a card. Yeah. We're going to talk to you. We're going to play a little game called the Values Jam. So we're going to basically, of course, ask you about a value that you pick from the card. So I'm just going to run my fingers along my cards, and you just tell me to stop when you want me to pick a card.
Stop. There we go.
Right, what have we picked?
It's not Cards Against Humanity, is it? No.
You got. It's quite a good one, really. You picked leadership.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, well, that hits the nail on the head.
So, creatively, what does leadership mean to you, Mark? What does it look, feel, and sound like? But we'll start with look. What does leadership look like to you?
Wow, what a great question. It's inspiration, I think, is the word that comes to mind. I don't really consider myself to be a leader. I've just fallen into this sort of into the middle of 120,000 people, and it's lovely to be associated with leading that community. But it's about giving, and giving and supporting. And that, I mean, there are countless stories about leaders, pushing from behind. It's leading from the front. You've got to walk the talk and behave and act and treat people in the way that the future leaders will do. So I'm just trying to think of somebody who epitomizes that. I guess Steve Jobs would come to mind. He was a famous pirate. I'm big into pirates, by the way, as you know, Melanie. We should all be more pirate. And he was, when he died, they flew the skull and crossbones over the Apple headquarters. Those pirates created the first globally recognized logo, and that's it. 300 years before Coca-Cola. And he was famous for saying, "I would much rather be a pirate than in the Navy." And the qualities of pirate leaders is really interesting. Yeah, it looks like a pirate leader. Actually, the pirate captain only got 4 times as much loot as the cabin boy. They were elected by the crew. It was a very flat society when they weren't in battle, but when they were in battle, the leader, his word was law. And some of the best pirate leaders were women in the golden age of piracy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks like a pirate. A leader looks like a pirate. A female pirate.
What, a female pirate, even better. What does it feel like?
Not the pirate, but what does leadership feel like?
Yeah.
Not the female pirate. We don't want to get into the pornographic side of things.
That wouldn't be very woke, would it? No. What does leadership feel like? I think there's a certain, if rewarding, I would think. To give you an example, one of our, because I am leading this community of arts and culture network professionals, we have events that people come to or don't come to. And on one occasion, Anjali Varma came to one. She's a fantastic young Indian arts administrator studying and in Connecticut, 48 hours away from having to go back to India. Came to one of our networking events. So did Jenny Leggery, marketing leader in the arts and culture somewhere else in the States. They had a 5-minute meeting, and Jenny hired Anjali during that 5-minute meeting. And the sense of reward of having led that meeting and the community that produced the meeting, and Anjali dropping me a line afterwards saying, "I've just cancelled my flight." She's still working there, doing a fantastic job. This is perhaps a year ago now. That's really, that's what leadership feels like. It's the rewards that other people benefit from.
Yeah.
So it's a warm and fuzzy feeling for you.
Yes, and it's part of the creative process, because if I hadn't done this, that would not have happened. So I've effectively created the environment in which that could happen by leading this community in that direction. And I want us to be independent and diverse and inclusive and borderless. So yeah, I got some lovely feedback recently, which was that the traditional institutions of belonging are failing us. Nations, political parties, organized religions. And so we still want that sense of belonging. And the Arts and Culture Network is just one example of alternative churches, almost. I want to be part of that. I share the values of inclusivity, diversity, and no borders. And if we can't do it in the arts, where you can't do it anywhere.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
yeah.
So if it had a sound, being a musician, what would it
Go
sound?
on. Go on.
No, it's
Go
not
on. Say the triangle. Say the
it's not
triangle.
What would that's a great question. I love that. What would be the leadership with the leader? As a percussionist, I think I'd probably go for the timpani, kettle drums, timps. It sounds like the end of Also Sprach Zarathustra, 2001 Space Oddity.
Yeah.
One of the things that you realize as a timpanist in a symphony orchestra is that you decide how fast we're going. The conductor can wave as much as he likes, but if you decide to slow things down a bit more, then everyone will follow you. So
What a fantastic analogy. That's fantastic.
I thought he was going to say, "Arr!"
Well, you can have both. You can have a female pirate timpanist.
There we go. Yeah, and of
Yeah,
course
why not?
the mounted timpanists in the Coldstream Guards, they're in charge of how fast we go. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, timpani is it's a lovely thing to do. So
What's it
Mark-
smell like, Mark?
pardon?
What's it smell like?
Oh, Earl Grey tea.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah, there's something. It's kind of like mainstream, but not many people recognize it or like it. I drink it all day. I love it. The
I could do
bergamot.
Lady Grey, but not Earl Grey.
Earl Grey, yeah, love Earl Grey.
Right. Well, we'll let you off the hook now, and you can go off and boil your kettle. I just want to say before Melanie wraps up, it's been an absolute pleasure meeting you, and you've given me an hour of absolute laughter, which always raises the spirits. So thanks so much for coming on the couch, Mark.
It's my pleasure, Julie. Thank you very much for inviting me. I've loved it. It's great.
Oh, it's been an absolute joy. I have to go and patch my face up now. Absolutely hilarious. Thank you so much for spending your morning with us, Mark. I'm so delighted to have you here. But that's it. We've run out of time, guys. So thank you for joining us. But until next time, we'll see you.